Hey there, it's John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. It is Hour of Devastation release weekend. We're going to finally start to see these cards hit the tournament scene and really get a good picture of, or at least an early picture of what's going to be happening in the meta going forward. Now, unfortunately, we're not quite there yet. At the time of recording, it is Saturday morning, so we don't know what to expect exactly from the cards. So today's Market Watch, you're not going to see any Hour of Devastation cards since those singles are still in heavy flux. However, I did do a special edition video last week where we talked about Hour of Devastation singles, and we'll be doing another one early this coming week after we see some of these results from the tournaments. However, today we are going to check in and see what's going on with the existing cards that are in Standard, Modern, and Legacy, and we'll also look at some Commander cards at the end as well. And there's actually some interesting things going on and definitely some impacts from Hour of Devastation cards. So, quickly before we get started, if you check out the description below, you'll find a couple ways to help support us, one of which is our Amazon affiliate store. If you make any purchases there, whether it's singles or anything else, a small percentage will come back to help us out. Secondly, you'll also find our Patreon page linked below as well. With that out of the way, let's get into the cards. And we're going to start, as we always do, with Standard. Now, the cards that lost value this week, nothing too surprising here. We have some high-value cards that haven't quite proven themselves in the new meta yet. And because of that, they're going to be soft. Nobody wants to make a large investment, especially if cards are going to be rotating out when Ixalan comes out. Players are going to be real careful about these purchases. Thus, you're going to see some of the values coming down a little bit. Coming in number 5, a card that's not rotating out, Liliana Death's Majesty, down 37 cents to 10.55. Number 4, Kalatas, Trader of Get, down 52 cents this week to 13.31. Number 3, Liliana the Last Hope, down 52 cents to 31.47. Number 2, Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger, down 58 cents to 14.99. Of course, Ulamog's been dropping pretty steadily since Aetherworks Marvel was banned, but this card does see play in other formats. As a matter of fact, pretty much all the other formats. You can find places for this in Modern, Legacy, even Vintage. So this card won't completely bottom out, but there are a lot of copies in print out there. And coming in number 1, Gideon Ally of Zendikar, down $1.14 to 14.45. Don't count Gideon out quite yet. I mean, Gideon always seems to find a way into the meta. Somehow, some way, right? So Gideon could potentially still be a part of our meta going forward. If that happens, this card could stabilize at least one more time before it rotates out. Alright, let's move on to the cards that have gained value this week. And much like the last few weeks, a lot of the cards that are increasing in value are increasing because of their crossover appeal into Modern. So that hasn't changed yet, although I do expect over the next couple weeks that will change once we actually start seeing some Standard results in this new meta. I think the focus will shift more towards Standard, so watch out for that. There's at least one speculative Standard card on here, though, we'll look at today. Coming in number 5, Spirebluff Canal, up 22 cents this week to 8.79. Perfect example here of a card that sees play, of course, in Standard index like Temur Energy, but also sees play in Modern index like Gift Storm, as well as Jeskai Control. Coming in number 4, Collective Brutality, up 23 cents to 10.39. Now, this card isn't seeing a whole lot of play in Standard nowadays, but it is all over the board in Modern. This card is showing up in tons of different decks. This has become the newest Modern staple, quite honestly. Of course, black has been a pretty successful color as of recent in Modern, but even in general, if that wasn't the case, this card is just going to continue to be a staple for years and years to come. I have no doubt. I've been preaching for months now, pick up your singles. I hope you did. If you still didn't and you need to pick them up at the $10 mark, I would still do it. This card is only going to go up. Now, Modern era Magic sets, of course, have high print runs. This one is a rare from Eldritch Moon, and that's actually a positive for the card because Eldritch Moon's print run compared to other Modern era sets, much, much lower. As a matter of fact, this is a set that did not have masterpieces, and it was a set that was sandwiched between a lot of other crazy stuff that was going on that summer. If you remember, there are 4 sets that came out in 4 months, one of which was Eternal Masters. Everyone's resources went into some of those other sets, and a lot of people weren't paying attention to the small set that came out, the small Standard set, Eldritch Moon. And because of that, these cards could retain their value. Now, of course, someday they'll reprint this. I don't know when, but maybe a master set a couple years down the road or something like that. And if that's the case, yes, this card will stabilize, but that's a ways off. And if you need this card to play between now and then, if you're a Modern player, you're just going to have to pick up some copies because this isn't going down anytime soon. Coming in at number 3, Torrential Gearhulk, up 69 cents to $20.98. This card has been slipping, but it has stabilized this week off the fact that it is being run now in some modern decks, Jeskai control decks, as a matter of fact. So that's going to help stabilize the price a little bit, but you can't discount the fact that there's a lot of copies of this out there. Number 2, Chandra Torture Defiance, up $1 this week to $24.93. She's actually been doing pretty well, just in general, through the slow time period of Standard. But again, this is another crossover card. She sees play, obviously, in Temur Energy, as well as Martyr Vehicles in Standard. But then you find her in Titan Shift and Jund in Modern. Coming in at number 1, Startled Awake, of $4.47 to $6.35. There's definitely some brewers out there that have taken notice to the card Fraying Sanity, which of course came out in Hour of Devastation, and they're going to try to put together that mill deck, and you can definitely see some ripple effects of that in the market right now. Now, I've said this over the last couple weeks, but I definitely feel like we're going to see the mill deck show up on camera the first weekend of competitive play, no doubt. It feels like there's definitely a contingency out there that whenever a mill deck is possible, they're going to scrap it together and they're going to bring it to the Star City Games Open. And usually at least one copy will put up a decent result. Now, getting beyond those first couple weeks and then, of course, past the Pro Tour into the more stable meta is a much more difficult task. And a lot of times these decks can't quite pull it off. But at least for right now, a card like Startled Awake is pretty hot and one to keep an eye on. Alright, let's move on to Modern. We're going to start off with the cards that lost value this week. Probably not a lot of surprises here. We're going to look at a lot of cards that have recently spiked and are just stabilizing. Coming at number 5, All Is Dust, down $1.90 to $25.50. Perfect example. This card has been going up relatively steadily, and it's just due to the fact that the Eldrazi Tron decks are actually pretty hot right now in the format. But again, you kind of expect when the card's going up fast, it's going to have a little bit of snapback. Coming in number 4, Chalice of the Void, finally, down $3.57 to $82 for the Modern Masters version. Now, this card has been going up and up and up and up. I was wondering when we'd finally see a snapback. I think that snapback got delayed a little bit because over the last few weeks, there was a deck list from Jeff Hoagland that was playing Dubious Challenge with 4 of these. So I think that gave it an extra push considering Dubious Challenge was kind of like the deck of the month for June. And we'll talk about the deck of the month for July in just a few seconds. But at least for right now, this is a hard pill to swallow at $80 to $90, I think, for players. If you really needed to play, well, I guess maybe some folks will bite that bullet. But investing that much into a card to play with that might be reprinted, maybe even as a rare in an upcoming Masters set like Iconic Masters or Masters 25, that's a pretty big risk. I think you're going to see less and less players wanting to take that risk. Coming in number 3 is Tarmogoyf. Wife. 2 versions to talk about this week. The Future Sight down $1.99 to $127.07. The Modern Masters 2015 version down $3.68 to $94.99. This card is trending down pretty consistently now. The percentage of play it's getting in Modern is a little bit less than it used to be, considering we see less Jund decks in the field. But the card still is seeing a lot of play, not only in Modern but Legacy. Although it just has such high price points, and the Modern Masters 2017 reprint didn't hurt either. Another thing to keep in mind is the fact that that Modern Masters 2015 version, that is the version I would avoid at all costs due to some of the production errors in that set. If I'm going to invest $100 on a card, I want to make sure I'm just picking up a version that is maybe from a more reliable print run. So I think a lot of players are thinking that too, and that's why that particular version is dipping as fast as it is. The Modern Masters 2017 version, you can still get cheaper than that and probably will be in better condition. You won't have to worry about weird print anomalies with that particular set as much. So there you go. The Future Sight version, always going to be the highest. It's the original and it has the unique cardboard and art. Coming at number 2, Horizon Canopy down $4.30 to $90.49. Of course, this is also from Future Sight. And this is a card that spiked pretty high over the last few weeks. Again, partially due to Dubious Challenge decks that were running this. Now, this is still a staple card in Modern regardless of Dubious Challenge. So I don't expect it to dip too far, but this did get really high. Like, I feel like maybe $80 is more of a fair price for this card at this point. Thoughtseize from Lorwyn is number 1 this week, going down $5.04 to $43. Now this card has been spiking pretty hard over the last month or so I expected this kind of snapback. Nothing unusual here. It's still a modern staple. It will continue to be, and a lot of players do gravitate towards this original version. Alright, let's move on to the cards that have gained value this week. I promised we'd see the deck of the month for July. There's a couple cards in here definitely being impacted by that. Coming in number 5, though, first is Omniscience, up $1.66 to $22.33. This one is being driven more by Legacy and maybe a little bit of Commander as well. But in Legacy, you'll find your Show and Tell decks that will run this, or your Omnitel decks. And it's still good. That's still a great deck. It's been doing well, especially considering the banning of Top changed the format a little bit. So not too surprised to see this card go up a little more. Coming in number 4, Karn Liberated from New Phyrexia, up $1.69 to $69.19. And I mentioned this earlier, but again, Eldrazi Tron decks doing pretty well in the format right now, and as they go, cards like Karn will go as well. Number 3, Phyrexian Unlife, up $4.63 to $9.49. Well, Saffron Olive's done it again. If you checked out MTG Goldfish over the past week, he did put up a brew for a Solemnity deck. And as you could guess, this card does really work well with Solemnity. So there you go. This card is going to continue to trend up, I think, over the next few weeks. Now, that Solemnity deck is going to have to put up some results for long-term success for the cards in it. And I usually say there's always like this deck of the month. I mean, a couple of months ago was the As Foretold deck. Last month was the Dubious Challenge deck. This month it's this Solemnity deck. Can this deck do what the others haven't and really put up a good result? Remains to be seen, but at least right now, a lot of players are looking at this deck list saying, hey, this looks like a lot of fun. They're picking up the singles, and that's what you're going to see here with cards like this one and the next one. Coming in number 2, Geralf's Messenger, up $5.51 this week to $10.50, another card that is, of course, in that deck list. Number 1 is Training Grounds from Rise of the Eldrazi, up $7.21 to $14.99. Okay, this one's a little bit weird. I did a lot of research to try to figure out what is going on with this card. This just spiked over the last 24 hours, so this kind of came out of nowhere. And here's what I've been able to figure out. Maybe I'm missing something, but it appears, anyway, that there was a deck list, a Budget Storm deck list that came out running this card from MTG Vault within the last 24, 48 hours or so. And then maybe a few folks saw that deck list, wanted to pick up some copies, and due to the fact that Training Grounds wasn't an overwhelmingly popular card, I don't think there were a lot of copies probably available in the big marketplaces like TCG Player, and I think they just sold out. And then, of course, when a card sells out, you're going to see some spiking. I think that's probably what happened with this one. Now, this card also is a decent Commander card. I mean, this does see Commander play, maybe somewhat being driven there. I looked at all the Hour of Devastation cards to see if there's any sort of brew potential with this card and anything from Hour. Nothing that jumped out to me. I mean, maybe if you wanted to try to make your gods more efficient and like Godtron or something, but I really don't see that happening in Modern. Maybe for Commander purposes. So I don't really think that was it, and I don't think this is just a strict buyout. This would have been a really weird buyout target, and I don't think that's the case for this card. I think it was just simply a card that was probably underutilized and have a lot of copies in the market, and then just caught a little bit of attention. If you go to TCG Player right now, there's copies available, but there's no near mint copies. There's just played copies. So if you want a fresh copy of the card, you can't get one right now on the TCG Player. So that's probably what's going on with this one. If I find out anything more, I'll let you know. It was just kind of an unusual spike. Maybe it's a blip on the radar. All right, let's move on to Legacy. And we're going to look at the cards that lost value this week first, but not a lot's happening in Legacy this week. I'll warn you ahead of time. It's pretty slow. And you'll notice that with some of the values, there's not a lot of huge decreases or increases necessarily, considering the price points of these cards. Coming in number 5, Nether Void, down $4.50 to $2.85 this week. Number 4, Badlands from Unlimited, down $5 to $1.90. Number 3, City of Brass from Arabian Nights, down $5.20 to $131.49. Number 2, Singing Tree, down $8.99 to $35. Good pickup. If you can find this for $20 to $40, something like that on the market, it's a fantastic Arabian Nights card that's part of the history of the game. And a lot of players will gravitate to this card, especially more so over time as it becomes harder and harder to pick up. So this might be a good week to pick this one up. Coming in at number 1, Living Plain, down $14 this week to $164.99. $14.99. Alright, let's look at what gained value this week in Legacy. We got some more dual lands for you coming in at number 5. Plateau from Unlimited up $9.98 to $169.96. Number 4, Jazam Jin, up $11.51 to $5.25. This card usually sits around the $500 mark. Over the last month or so, it had spiked beyond $600, which was a little weird for this card. It came back down. This is kind of its normal price range now. Number 3, Scrubland from Unlimited, up $13.57 to $187. Number 2, Underground Sea, again from Unlimited, up $18.70 to $579.60. And coming in at number 1, The Tabernacle, at Pendra Wahl, up $37.23 to $1,355.89. Alright, let's move on to some notable Commander cards. There's 4 I picked this week. The first one is trending down in value. The rest are trending up, so let's jump in. We'll begin with Urtai the Corrupted, down $6.98 this week to $90.59. Now, this is a alternate art foil from Plane Shift. And if you're not familiar with those, there were a few cards from that set that you could potentially open a pack and get a foil version with alternate art, which was very rare. So if you're lucky enough to have gotten any of those cards, of course they did go up in value over time. And this is a card that does see Commander play. Sometimes folks will use this as a Commander for a Wizard deck. Obviously meant to be usually more of a spiky deck. It doesn't always have to be, but can be a spiky control style deck. But overall, the card's declining this week, so I just wanted to point it out to you. I don't usually talk about foils, but since this is a special circumstance, and in case there are any players out there that have been thinking about picking up this card, maybe this is a good week to do so. Alright, let's move on to some cards that are gaining value with Intruder Alarm from Stronghold, up $1.51 to $12. This is a classic Commander card at this point, honestly. It has seen a reprint, so you can get a cheaper version in the reprinted copy, but if you want the original, this is it, the Stronghold version, and there's definitely some attention on it this week, going up almost $2. Next we have Polar cracking up $2.56 to $4.25. You can probably guess what's driving this one. Of course, our friend Solemnity strikes again. So these cumulative upkeep cards, I think as people keep discovering them, they're going to spike at different times. This week is Polar Kraken's turn to go up a few dollars. Again, I actually used to play this card back in the day. Yeah, I used to cheat it into playing kind of combo with it, but at the same time, it's still an interesting card with Solemnity. I mean, it's expensive, but you get it out and you got yourself an 11/11 Trampler. You don't have to worry about that Sacrifice an Island upkeep. Alright, our last card of the day, Willow Satyr, up $3.97 to $23.49. This is from Legends. And quick spoiler alert, if you want to tune out, I'm about to talk about the Ixalan leaks and spoilers a little bit. So if you've been avoiding those, you may want to tune out now. This is our last card, so if you want to tune out, have a great day. If you want to move forward to my outro, feel free to do that as well. Alright, I think I stalled enough. Gave you the chance to get out of here. Okay. So the reason this is going up basically is because we saw the leaks from Ixalan, and the Planeswalkers appear to be called Legendary Planeswalkers now. And because of that, a lot of people are speculating that there'll be some rules updates that go along with Ixalan that perhaps could retroactively make all Planeswalkers behave as legendaries. So, cards that interact with Legends could potentially have a lot more utility, become a lot more powerful, and here's a perfect example of that. Tap to gain control of target Legend. Now, aside from that, this is a 1/1 for 4, 2 on color, so it's not a great card by any means, but again, that extra power level, especially in the world of Commander in the future, could become relevant. So cards like this, a whole lot of other cards too, I'm sure over the next few months as people discover them, could see some spikes due to the fact that there's heavy speculation as to how Planeswalkers are going to interact in the future. Again, I'll point out it's speculation. We don't know how the rules could change if this turns out to be true, but at least at this point, a lot of people are hedging their bets. Alright, having said that, those are the cards for today. Actually, a pretty exciting week. A lot of different stuff going on. I'm looking forward to seeing some standard play this weekend. And definitely early next week, we're going to talk about our Devastation singles and where they stand. And then, of course, next Saturday, we'll be back with our regular Market Watch. We'll have some other stuff going on throughout the week, too. So until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.